On the day the city's most powerful billionaire married a poor girl from the South Side, the world applauded a fairy tale. They saw a miracle. What they didn't see was the contract hidden in a locked drawer, the revenge buried in old company files, and the truth that would bring an empire to its knees. It was never about love. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss any powerful, emotional story we share here. Now let's begin. When Nathaniel Harrington announced his engagement, the business world stopped breathing. At 38, he was not only wealthy, he was untouchable. He had inherited Harrington Pharmaceuticals after his father's death and transformed it into Harrington Biotech, a company that pioneered breakthrough treatments and secured billion-dollar government contracts. He was known for precision, silence, and control. He did not smile in interviews. He did not get photographed leaving nightclubs. He did not date publicly. So when the public discovered that his bride-to-be was Emily Carter, a hospital janitor who lived in a two-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, it sounded like fiction. Emily Carter had grown up watching the world choose other people first. Her father, Thomas Carter, had once worn a lab coat with pride inside Harrington Pharmaceuticals. He believed in science. He believed in loyalty. Then one late evening, a ventilation malfunction exposed several technicians to a chemical compound. The company issued a statement calling it a contained incident. Thomas was one of the few who suffered long-term damage. His lungs never recovered. The settlement that followed was quiet. It came with a non-disclosure agreement thick enough to choke on. The money helped for a while, but medical bills are patient predators. They wait. Emily's mother, Diane, worked at a diner until exhaustion turned into heart failure. By 19, Emily was alone with a sick father and rent that never stopped knocking. She took a job cleaning Mercy General Hospital at night. She enrolled in online public health courses during the day. She learned to swallow pride and stretch every dollar. She did not expect rescue. Nathaniel first noticed her by accident. During a televised hospital donation ceremony, she knocked over a promotional banner with his face printed larger than life. The crash echoed. Cameras turned. Administrators gasped. He met her eyes for a second, hers filled with embarrassment, his with something unreadable. He walked away, but he did not forget her name. Weeks later, she was summoned to his office. The building alone made her feel small. Polished floors reflected ceilings that looked endless. Assistants moved like quiet machinery. When she entered his office, she saw a man standing in front of a window overlooking the city that he practically owned. He spoke calmly, almost gently. He had reviewed her father's file. He acknowledged wrongdoing, carefully, without admitting legal liability. Then he offered her a proposal that felt like something out of a twisted novel. He would fund advanced treatment for her father. Specialists. Experimental therapies. Full coverage. In return, she would marry him for 3 years. It would present a narrative of reconciliation between the Harrington legacy and those harmed by it. It would stabilize investor confidence during a crucial merger. She stared at him, searching for mockery. There was none. Only calculation. That night, she sat beside her father's hospital bed as he coughed through another episode. She watched his oxygen levels dip and rise. Pride could not cure damaged lungs. Anger could not rewrite history. When she signed the contract, she told herself it was temporary. She told herself it was survival. The wedding became a spectacle. Reporters lined the streets. Commentators debated her motives. Emily walked down the aisle in a gown that cost more than her entire apartment building. She kept her chin high. Nathaniel's stepmother, Victoria Harrington, watched with polished contempt. Marcus Vail, Nathaniel's CFO and closest confidant, watched with concern. Isabella Grant, investigative journalist and former lover of Nathaniel, watched with suspicion. The marriage began as an arrangement. Separate bedrooms at first. Coordinated public appearances. Carefully scripted interviews. Emily learned how to sit at gala tables without shrinking. She learned how to answer questions about love without lying outright. Nathaniel ensured her father received the best care money could buy. He visited the hospital more often than anyone expected. He asked doctors detailed questions. He listened. Marcus confronted him one evening. He warned that emotional involvement was dangerous. Investors were already uneasy. Nathaniel insisted everything was under control. But Marcus saw it, the slight change in his friend's posture when Emily entered a room, the way his tone softened around her father. Victoria began working quietly behind the scenes. She believed Nathaniel was risking the empire William Harrington had built. She whispered to board members about instability. She questioned his judgment. She hinted that Emily might manipulate him. Meanwhile, Isabella dug deeper into the company's history. She uncovered emails suggesting that William Harrington had known about ventilation issues before the exposure incident. There were discussions about cost reduction, about delaying upgrades to equipment. One message mentioned Thomas Carter directly. The implication was devastating. When Isabella requested an interview, Nathaniel agreed. He sat across from her without defensiveness. She expected denial. Instead, he acknowledged the past in careful but honest terms. He did not beg her to bury the story. At home, Emily found him one night staring at a locked drawer in his father's study. Inside were files he had inherited along with the company. He confessed that marrying her had begun as a strategic move, a shield against potential scandal. She felt her chest tighten. She had suspected something. Hearing it confirmed cut deeper than she expected. Yet he also admitted that somewhere along the way, strategy had lost its clarity. He had seen her resilience. He had watched her advocate for her father without bitterness. He had begun to question the legacy he was defending. When Isabella published her exposé, the world erupted. Protesters gathered. Share prices plummeted. Lawsuits resurfaced. Victoria attempted to rally the board to remove Nathaniel, claiming he had jeopardized everything. During a dramatic board meeting, Nathaniel stunned them by releasing internal documents that revealed the depth of past misconduct, even though it would damage the company further. He refused to protect corruption. Victoria's influence crumbled. She resigned in disgrace. The merger collapsed. Investors fled. Harrington Biotech shrank almost overnight. Employees feared layoffs. Marcus stayed, choosing loyalty over security. Emily stood beside Nathaniel publicly, though privately she wrestled with anger. She had been used, yes, but she had also witnessed him dismantle the very system that had harmed her father. Thomas Carter watched the news from his hospital bed. Tears slid down his cheeks. He told Emily that sometimes justice costs more than revenge. Months passed. Nathaniel stepped down as CEO voluntarily, appointing independent leadership to oversee reforms. Settlements were paid to affected families. Safety standards were rewritten. The Harrington name no longer represented untouchable wealth. It represented accountability. The 3-year contract approached its end. They met in the same office where everything had begun. The skyline looked the same. They were not. He told her she was free to leave with financial security beyond her imagination. She studied him carefully. The arrogance she had once sensed was gone. In its place stood a man who had sacrificed reputation and fortune to correct inherited wrongs. She reminded him that their marriage had never been about love. It had been about image, leverage, and damage control. He agreed. But he also admitted that somewhere between hospital visits and boardroom battles, he had fallen in love with the woman who refused to hate him. She did not answer immediately. Love built on deception is fragile. But love rebuilt on truth can be different. She chose not because he was wealthy, he was no longer the titan he once had been, but because he had proven willing to lose everything to do what was right. Years later, Emily graduated with her degree in public health. She began working in advocacy for corporate safety reform. Nathaniel invested in ethical research initiatives under stricter regulations. Marcus helped rebuild a leaner, more transparent company. Isabella continued her journalism, earning respect for her integrity. People still tell the story as if it were a fairy tale. They describe a billionaire who married a poor girl and changed her life. They never mention the contracts, the boardroom betrayals, or the quiet sacrifices made behind closed doors. It was never about love at the beginning. It was about power trying to protect itself. It was about a corporation attempting to rewrite its image. But in the ruins of a collapsing empire, two people confronted truth without armor. One chose integrity over legacy. The other chose forgiveness without forgetting. And that is why the story endured, not because a rich man married a poor girl, but because both of them learned that redemption costs more than wealth. And sometimes the only way to build something real is to let everything false burn first.